Top of the day to you, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to Press R. The Constitution of Cameroon begins with a preamble, and its first phrase reads, I quote, "We, the people of Cameroon, proud of our linguistic and cultural diversity, but profoundly aware of the imperative need to further consolidate our unity, solemnly declare that we constitute one and the same nation, bound by the same destiny, and assert our firm determination to build the Cameroonian fatherland on the basis of the ideals of fraternity, justice, and progress." End of quote. In Section 1, Sub 3 of the Constitution, the bilingualism conception of the country by our forefathers is again highlighted, and I quote, "The official languages of the Republic of Cameroon shall be English and French, both languages having the same status." End of quote. The application of these well-intentioned provisions of the fundamental law of the land have witnessed diverse fortunes. Within the past decades, there has been a reawakening. Existing laws and regulations strengthened, and new specialized institutions created to promote bilingualism. Our question on Press R today is, how far or how near is the practice of bilingualism to the policy in place? I am Kilian Ndandi from Yaoundé, and this is Press R. Yeah, welcome back. And if you're just joining us, this is Press R, and we are broadcasting live from Studio 4 of the CRTV Production Center at Mbalatu in Yaoundé. Our topic for debate today is how far or how near is the practice of bilingualism in Cameroon to its policy. And we have invited people who are closely related to this topic to talk about it, share their opinions, and we see how Cameroon is faring on a sector which could just be what will make us have social cohesion, which will make us have the consolidation of our unity. Kofon Kilian Bonte, popularly called KK Bonte, is the Central Regional Pedagogic Inspector for Teaching and Promotion of Bilingualism. You're welcome to Press R.
Thank you very much, Mr. Ndakilian. It's a pleasure for me to be here today.
The pleasure is shared. We have Joe Kenneth. Joe Kenneth is a translator. He's a cultural diversity specialist. Each time we talk about bilingualism, I like to bring him to the set because his contributions are always very incisive. You're welcome, Kenneth.
Thank you, Mr. Kilian. It's always a pleasure sitting here when bilingualism is on the agenda. So thank you.
Mr. Tifo Philip is an educationist. He is an active member of the civil society, and he thinks that the civil society has its say when it comes to very important issues in the society. You're welcome.
Thank you for having me, Mr. Kilian.
Yes, and the journalist that we will have on the set, who just told me he's coming up, he should be somewhere coming to the set, is Moa Patrick. Moa Patrick is a desk editor in the Guardian Post newspaper, the only private daily, English language daily that we have in the country. Now, talking about newspapers, Emanuela Vemni read the newspapers for Press R.
The press week ending has been marked by several happenings in and around Cameroon captured by papers for their readers. President Paul Biya sent emissary to evaluate situation in the far north in Cameroon Insider as social tensions and humanitarian concerns plague some communities. Cameroon Tribune reports that the social tensions are sparked by the creation of the Mabedbet National Park, While on appeasement mission, the Horizon reports that Ngongo and Atanganji Sea Red in Kuseri as irate populations forced Ngongo to extend stay in Kuseri while on mediation mission in the Median, before Ngongo later promises to faithfully report population's plight to Biya in Newswatch after a fruitful encounter. Then Logo Nanshari renews covenant with Biya in the Guardian Post. Just when close to 300 civil servants are reportedly sacked from government in Cameroon Tribune, the Guardian Post talks of 297 more absentee civil servants dismissed by government, and by so doing, government recovers 14.5 billion CFA francs improperly paid to public workers in the Chronicle Times. Happening when Finance Minister lobbies investors to raise 280 billion CFA francs for development projects in the Post newspaper. Cameroon seeks new investment for public debt market, writes The Voice. Menfi then launches 2025 finance program with focus on infrastructure development in municipal updates, just when Ambassador hints on Italy's readiness to foster reconstruction plan while on a working visit to Lebialem in the Chronicle Times. Pinyin population reportedly capture, beat and roast two suspected Amber fighters in Santa in the Guardian Post. At the time, Ayabacho's right-hand man is captured in Bamenda in the Horizon, leaving the population in jubilation as the Amber commander killed in question is the one who imposed reign of terror in Bamenda in the Guardian Post, before the discovery of corpses and skeletons sends shocking waves in Idea in Cameroon Insider. And as youth pledge to pay 30 million francs CFA caution for Biya's candidacy for the 2025 presidential election in municipal updates, the Guardian Post cautions the SDF not to partake in soya supper. Before elections, Cameroon new electoral board members are sworn in Cameroon Tribune. The Northwest Public Works Delegates then foresees completion of Ndunkambe Road by December 2025 in the Post. At a time, arts and crafts sector in Cameroon is presented as a gold mine whose benefits are enormous in Cameroon Tribune. SME's minister then seals deal with a financial institution to finance small and medium-sized enterprises in the country. In the Guardian Post, the 2025 Mount Cameroon Race of Hope kicks off in Boya as the chariots of the gods awaits athletes in Cameroon Insider. To Cameroon Tribune, the Race of Hope is growing hope. Before Cameroon is ranked among world's most corrupt nations again in the Guardian Post. Let's now end our press review with this story in the Guardian Post, where US-based Cameroonian researcher Gerard Ashu is breaking new grounds in AI-driven cybersecurity innovation like machine learning, intrusion detection, and anomaly detection, amongst others. And those were the papers for you.
Thank you so much, Emanuela. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. Our topic of debate on Press Hour today is how far or how near is the practice of bilingualism in Cameroon to its policy. Now, we're going to see what is the official policy of bilingualism in Cameroon before we start looking at how far or how near we are to its practice. And we're going to start with you, Peke Bonte.
Yes, thank you very much, Mr. Ndakilian. Talking about how far or how near, I just want to make this statement. I think we have gone very far and we're still very near. Well, the Constitution is what guides us in this discussion here today. And from the preamble, it's evident that one very important issue guiding us in Cameroon as a bilingual country is the Constitution of 1961 and the revised Constitution of 1996, which establishes English and French as the two official languages of Cameroon with equal status. That's the first thing we have to look at, and we'll be able to examine it to see how effective this has been. The second thing is the 1998 law on education.
Did you say the Constitution of 1961 or 72?
The Constitution,
1972,
1972
and 1996.
1996.
Yes.
Good, thank you. In 1996, the revised Constitution.
Yes.
Good. So in 1998, there's the law on education. And the law on education is also mandating bilingual education. We're looking at it from the perspective of the ministry. And then there are also several decrees signed by the Ministry of Secondary Education, or if we go by the Ministry of National Education at the time. So there have been several decrees signed by the Ministry of Secondary Education, and these decrees are promoting bilingualism and promoting the creation and the introduction of curriculum and the teaching designs that go a long way to promote bilingualism. And then lastly, of recent, in 2017, we had this presidential decree creating the National Commission for the Promotion of Bilingualism
and Multiculturalism.
Yes, I'm sure
a specialized body.
It came with particular instruction on what to do as far as promoting bilingualism at the level of the government, the level of the legal department, and the public service is concerned.
Yes, and that National Commission for the Promotion of Bilingualism and Multiculturalism had the text of application on the 24th of December 2019. And since then, the officials were appointed. It has been working. We are also going to, from the general picture, look at how far they have gone with carrying out the tasks that they've been endowed with to make sure that bilingualism is effective in Cameroon. They go just beyond bilingualism. They go as far as fighting hate speech. Multiculturalism, of course, living together is part of their mission. But before I ask Kenneth and Philip to give some other aspects of the policy of bilingualism, you did not talk about there is a program at the presidency in charge of bilingualism. That's where you have the different pilot centers spread around the country. So what are the other aspects of the policy on bilingualism that Mr. Bonte did not talk about?
Yeah, he said quite interesting things there. And I would just simply want to add to what he said, that when he talks of the law on education that lays emphasis on bilingualism, I would like to say, just to complement, that law is actually an implementation of a circular letter number 001 of 16 August 1991, signed by the Prime Minister, instructing the use of the two languages in all state and parastatal structures. So we equally have at policy level the new program, which is bilingual education, special bilingual program in secondary schools. That one was put in place at policy level so that this aspect of bilingualism should really, the agenda should be carried forward.
Yes, Mr. Tifu, some other aspects of the national policy on bilingualism that the two speakers have not talked about, the two panelists, Kenneth and Killian.
Oh yeah, thank you for giving me this opportunity. It is interesting to even take note that the previous decree on bilingualism and the use of English and French stated that French was the first language. And then after that, in 2019, this other decree came up to say that the two official languages of Cameroon are English and French. So it begins to see that it looks like people are playing with words. And it looks like this policy is something that it is spontaneously done. It's not something that some people sat down and concerted and came out. It's true. I'm from Bileng. I'm the president of the...
Yeah, before you go to that level, I have not understood you so well, because they cited the two, Killian and Kenneth. They followed me to talk about the Constitution, which is the fundamental law of the land. The Constitution of 1972, that was a long time ago, that was reviewed amended in 1996, what we are using today. It was retouched even in 2008, but these provisions about bilingualism were actually not touched. So there I said in section 1, sub 3 of the Constitution that the bilingual conception of the country by our forefathers, the people we are talking about, whether they had good faith or not, is highlighted. This is what they say in the Constitution. The official languages of the Republic of Cameroon shall be English and French, both languages having the same status. Where did you bring that one of the first one is French and the other is English? We are going to go into a critique and we'll give you ample time.
Okay.
But from what I've said here, the Constitution doesn't seem to say that one is over the other. If there's a problem, it could be from the practice. That's individuals, not in terms of the legal instruments. Yes.
Yes, let me just cue up with what the other speakers have said. We've seen the policy in secondary school, in the special bilingual classes, which has trained a lot of students. But let me also say that in our years, the bilingualism was for everybody. But now they have made a selected few classes to implement this bilingualism program. So I don't want to repeat because they have said nearly everything that was supposed to be said.
Even on that, Keke Bonte, I want you to let me understand. It looks like I've not understood it. You are an educationist. The new program for bilingualism has not replaced the general policy on bilingualism in schools and colleges and even higher institutions. I think they call it pilot schools.
Okay, yes, the pilot schools.
The pilot classes, not even schools, classes. In one school, you have a select bilingual class, and the first batches graduated some years back.
Some years back, yeah.
Yes, so I think that we're going to do a real critique of this policy.
Yes, maybe just to add to what he wanted to say, the truth is that the Special Bilingual Education Program, which we call CBEP, at the level of the Ministry of Secondary Education, we can say it's just a reinforcement of the existing laws. And what the Ministry of Secondary Education is doing is trying to implement the law by creating these pilot institutions. It's true, we cannot have all the schools at the same time running this bilingual program, because we have to be sure that the students that are selected to take part in this program are actually the students that are going to be able to go through the program, because it begins with a selection interview or selection test at the level of CCM and Form 1. And when you pass the test, it's an indication that your level of understanding will permit you to be able to take part in this bilingual program, or else you will simply may have to follow monolingual education, and while following monolingual education, you still do the other language. It doesn't mean that you are exempted from doing the other language, because the texts are clear that the students, we are supposed to introduce bilingual education in all schools, but we have the right to choose which of the languages first as the main language of instruction. So bilingual education, it has not come like a kind of compulsory for all the schools as far as the special bilingual program is concerned. For the moment, we hope that in future that may be the case, but we have selected schools that are implementing the special bilingual education program.
Yes.
It's just to add to what he's saying. Actually, with all the good intentions, it is logistically impossible for everything to kick off at once. What do I mean by logistically impossible? The staff that is qualified to do that work, we don't have all the staff. Right. So it can only be progressive.
Yes. Let us welcome, you continue, let us welcome Moi Patrick, who has, you must have had some issues on the way.
Yeah,
you're welcome to Press R. We didn't start with you, but we knew, I called you before you said you were coming.
That's right.
So you're welcome.
Thank you very much, Kilian.
Yes, we'll just give you a few seconds to catch your breath.
Yeah, of course. I had to clear my table for our publication of tomorrow. So
okay, that's the
Guardian Post.
Thank you so much. Yes, Kenneth.
Yes, I was saying, to add to what Keke Bonte said, contrary to what Mr. Tifo thinks, we are saying, my opinion is that the state may have all the
Good intentions.
good intention to do it, but logistically, it can only be progressive. With a hope, you rightly say, and it's very true, about 2 or 3 or 4 years ago, the first batch of that special program graduated. So in the next 3 or 4 or 5 years, those who must have chosen the path of education or the path of becoming educationists, they are those who were normally supposed to absorb into that program. And from there, it can start extending. It can start extending. And you may want to know that I will take the Anglo-Saxon subsystem of education, that you have French language teachers in less than 50% of the schools. Yes, and it's a logistic problem.
Yes.
Yes. And in Francophone schools, you have English language teachers in a percentage that is not far from what I observed in the Anglo-Saxon school, because the staff, qualified staff, is limited.
Yeah.
So it can only be progressive.
Now, Patrick, you still have to catch your breath. Now, we'll go back to Mr. Tifo. This time, we want you to look at the loopholes, how practical, how far, or how near this practice is from the policy we've been talking about.
Yes, thank you. I still want to disagree with the fact that it's a problem of logistics. I don't agree with that, because I think Cameroon is one of the richest countries in Africa. And if we cannot invest in children, come on, what are we talking here? The government has enough money to recruit teachers. I want somebody to prove me wrong. Talking about, what did you ask me to?
You have not, first, before I go on to ask you what I asked you, you don't seem to have disagreed with him. He has not said that government does not have potential, that there is human resource, yes. He is saying what is at hand is not enough. I think that's what he's talking about. He's not talking about lack of logistics.
I think it's a matter of priority too. If the government gives absolute priority, because without education, you're not going to have the people to manage the country. And once education has issues, it trickles down to other sectors of the economy.
Yes, now you are asking me the question I asked you. I come back to it. How far or how near are we to the policy of bilingualism in Cameroon? Simply said, in terms of practice, do we have it in the country?
It's true, we've gone quite some miles down the road, but the road is rocky and slippery. Because, one, people have not conceived bilingualism as something beneficial. At the home level, parents have to tell their children that it is very important to be bilingual. Bilingualism is not simply learning English and French. It goes beyond that, because we in Lycée Bilingue Yaoundé, we consider bilingualism as a key to scientific research, as a key to professional integration. So if you see in other domains, you see the way bilingualism is practiced in ministries. Nobody cares a damn. People are nonchalant, and people mistake speaking French to bilingualism. Some people feel that when you speak French, you are bilingual. This is not true. I have gone through some ministries. Once you get there, you see all the notices are in French. And sometimes I have to question. Take like the...
Can you give examples? Because I have the impression that ministries are doing some work. Probably may not be...
You need to go to the Ministry of Finance. Go through there. You will see. Go to the Ministry of Agriculture. When you get there, you will find it yourself. I have gone and I've seen. Take the case of the youth village. The youth village was conceived this year. Fortunately, they invited Lycée Bilingue. we were present at the youth village. You heard all the MC spoke all the time in French. It got to a point, I came down from my stand. I went there. I said, please, based on the decree of the head of state, there has to be systematic use of French and English. This is not possible. Shortly after that, they made some effort to speak in French and English. I realized that in most ministries, take that the Ministry of Youth Affairs, a few people there can speak English and French. I had a working session there, but I realized that the guys who were supposed to talk with me were not bilingual. And I told the Inspector General, anybody who cannot speak French and English here should get out. And be careful. The head of state's decree gives absolute priority to someone who is coming in to choose his language. It means that if I get to an office, I am the one to choose my language. Which means that all the civil servants, all the state, all the parastatals must communicate in English.
Okay. Yes, and we have a commission, specialized body in charge, complementing, or I should say, because as I say, there is a program at the presidency, charge of then as a national program in charge of bilingualism. We have in schools, in education, is going on, and the National Commission for the Promotion of Bilingualism and Multiculturalism has a handbook which has some of those laws, how it should be practiced. And if I were just to pick one, Patrick, General Provisions of Law number 2019/019 of the 24th of December 2019 on the promotion of official languages in Cameroon. Let me just open General Provisions, purpose and scope of the law. First thing, this law lays down the general legal framework for the promotion of official languages in Cameroon. 2. The official languages of Cameroon shall be English and French. Sub 2, the official languages of Cameroon shall have equal value. Now, this is where you come in. Equal value is that practice. We are going into the practical phase of it.
It's a yes and no. Yes, because to an extent, bilingualism is being practiced in the country. But if you really want to get into the nitty-gritty of how this is being practiced, at one moment you are left with the impression that we were in a French-speaking bilingual country. Because for all of us are aware that French is given more importance than English. If you listen to most of the official documents that come from, for example, the presidency, for example, they first of all come in French, and we are told that they will be translated subsequently and stored in the National Gazette. I ask myself, we're in a country where we have 2 official languages. Why should a document first of all come out in French and then it's later translated?
Well, not most.
That's just I'm just citing an example. Yeah, examples are bound.
But from the presidency, most of them are translated.
They are translated. Maybe later. I'm saying that by the time, for example, those documents are read, for example, on radio.
They are read at the same time in English and French. When you listen to Dikos, Umaru, and George Kelong,
we know what transpires there. Some of those documents are translated on air by the journalists themselves.
No, you cannot translate a 20-page, 50-page document.
Let's not be labeled on that particular point. I was just trying to set the tone for the point I want to make.
Let me just say this also. When we hear texts that are coming, what do you say? In some public institutions, we don't have the simultaneous publication of documents. But when you listen to CRTV at 5 p.m., you have George Kelong and Dikos Umaru who read these texts now on CRTV. One person is sitting here, the other is sitting there. They read the text at the same time.
Can I continue?
Yes, please.
Let me see, Patrick. Killian is arguing with you just for nothing. He actually said most of them are translated. He didn't say all. So when you say most, it means there are some that are not translated. And very true, there are some that are not
That's what I
translated.
think that we should
I
just,
know.
we should just get the debate going. Let's not belabor on this particular aspect.
Exactly.
If you talk about whether bilingualism is a reality in this country, I think that so far it has not been the best in terms of how bilingualism is practiced in this country. You know, if, for example, the head of state, for example, in 42 years, he has never addressed this country in English, I tell you,
Never.
he has never in his official addresses.
In Bamenda in
No,
1985.
I'm talking about official address. I'm not talking about his public outings.
It is simultaneous now.
No, it is not simultaneous. That the head of state can use a UD address and it address this country in English. What is wrong about that? I'm not talking about his visits to maybe Bamenda or Boya that we are all aware of, that he made some construction sentences
No
in
sentences.
English. No, the speech
Patrick,
was not read in English.
Patrick.
You keep arguing and you derail us. Let me just develop my
I'm
point.
not delaying.
Why do you call us here to bully us?
We have.
Let me just develop my point to the end.
See, in Bamenda,
Why are we always on the defensive?
In Bamenda in 1985, the Congress that happened there, the head of state
We are all aware. I'm
read
not refused.
all of
I'm
that
saying that
in
in
English.
42 years,
in Boya,
in a year,
in Boya in 1987, his speech was exclusively in English.
Are you listening to me now, Killian?
Yes, go
I
ahead.
am saying that the head of state officially speaks to this nation twice a year. That is on the 31st of December and the 10th of February every year. Count the number of speeches in 42 years. Tell me one that he has addressed this nation officially in English from start to finish. So we are not talking
What
about.
do you mean by official? Because immediate is one
These are
speech.
official outings,
Is
Killian.
one speech. Is one speech that is in two sections. Going immediately.
But a
the
portion
French,
of that same speech can be read out in English by the head of state to give the semblance of the practice of bilingualism in the country. Translating, which means any other country that is not even a bilingual country can get a translator or an interpreter to do that same, carry out that same exercise. It doesn't make that country a bilingual country. I'm telling you that we are not inventing the wheel. Cameroon is not the only bilingual country in the world. Officially, we have Canada, but there are other countries like Switzerland that have other languages, though not of equal status, but they're given some level of importance. But I'm saying that in a bilingual country, the head of state has never addressed this country officially in English. It speaks volume of the neglect and, you know, the kind of disregard that is given to the English language. I don't expect this
we don't seem to understand. You have cornered your official.
Yeah, let me now get to.
Yes, I will let you
me now
continue
get
to
the
speak.
details, yeah.
I will let you continue
That's
to
why I
speak.
came here.
Any outing that is mandatory, announced of the head of state, is an official out, except you have your own definition of official. You are talking
It is
about,
not official.
No,
if the head of state goes to Boya on a visit, he's not addressing
Patrick,
the
you are not
nation.
inventing. As you say, the wheel. You are not inventing. Are you speaking? Are we speaking English or something?
No, you are the one who is
saying.
not getting
You are
confused.
saying in his official outing.
No, I said he has never addressed this nation. When I talk about addressing a nation, I have enumerated
What is an
two
address?
instances.
What is an address? Speaking to people is an address.
Please, I'm talking about traditional address that we all know.
You are modifying the words that will move
I
from.
said the head of state
Okay.
never addressed the nation. If he visits
No,
Boya,
okay,
he's not addressing the nation.
you are modifying your words as we
If
go.
the head of state visits Boya, he's addressing that gathering, he's not addressing the nation.
It is an official.
It is not a state of the nation addresser.
What is that?
It is not a state of the nation address.
What is that?
He's addressing the gathering. If he goes to
Not Cameroonians.
If he goes to the US and speaks in English, will you say he has addressed Cameroonians in English?
Well,
so what I'm saying is that
let me allow you. Let me develop my point.
Let me develop my point.
Let me allow you.
I am saying that if
you have modified your words, because when you said, please let me
borrow me words.
No,
I'm not short of
when you said he has never addressed Cameroonians
in English,
in his official outing,
Yeah.
I was trying to tell you that the little English that I understand, each time he goes out, each time he comes out, there's a program. It is official. That's what we know as official. Now you are modifying it. You are modifying because you are coming to traditional.
No, you cannot bully me.
You are modifying. You are modifying to traditional.
No,
the two times.
I've said.
Okay.
I've said it. He has rendezvous with the nation twice a year.
Just catch your
In
breath.
all of those rendezvous.
That is not the
in
focus.
all of those rendezvous, he has never.
That's not the focus. Our focus is not on the head of state.
When you are the head of
first
state,
of all,
and you are able to do that, what do you expect of those you appoint? So I was going to I was driving towards a particular position which would have interrupted me brutally. But what I'm trying to say is that
you are also coming so brutally and then shifting the debate to one person.
Am I here with an arm?
Shifting. These are laws. These are laws.
Those things
These
are
are laws. These are laws.
Before this law
He is a Cameroonian.
Before this law
like
came,
all
the
the other
last
Cameroonians.
constitution of this country was adopted in 1996. All these provisions are inscribed in the constitution.
This is the question. This is the question that we answer now.
This is not the only law. This law doesn't override the constitution.
Patrick, if you recall,
it is a constitutional obligation.
This is the question I asked you. This is the question I asked you after reading this. The official languages of Cameroon shall have equal value. Yeah. This is the question I asked you. You answer a different question altogether. Now I will give the question. I will give the question to Kenneth.
I'm asking the question about the values.
Kenneth, you are a
Who
translator.
What?
Kenneth, you are a translator. This is what the question I asked him. He's answering his question. I will come back to him. Answer this question. Do we have equal value consideration for these languages? That's the question I asked Patrick. He's answering his question.
Okay.
That's the question we're answering.
Okay. Thank you very much, Killian. It is true that I cannot just answer that question directly without touching what Patrick was saying, and you have tried to stop him. You have a point. He has a point, in my opinion. The idea he's airing is that Cameroonians generally every year expect to hear from the head of state twice. An outing is circumstantial, and that's why you've quoted 2. Then, if we listen to the head of state twice a year, his point is that he has never heard the head of state address the nation in those 2 official communications in a year in English. And I think he is right. Then, I'll add by saying, do you know that there are Cameroonians, comedians, who make a living by just imitating the head of state? That is true, we can't argue that. Then, can an Anglophone comedian become or earn a living by imitating the head of state without first and foremost studying and mastering the French language? That is where the point is. So he was trying to say that the fact that the head of state addresses the nation in those 2 addresses, annual addresses, exclusively in French, is a problem.
It speaks volume already.
It speaks volume of the importance that is attached to of the equality as stipulated in the Constitution.
Now,
okay.
Now, I will not drive us on that path because that's not our focus. When the head of state comes out on those 2 occasions, it is not about, he's not coming for language, he's coming for message.
That's true. That's very true.
Now, if you accept that that's true, that message is given in French and in English.
Please.
No, please, Patrick. He comes for a message. He doesn't come for language. Now, that message is given in English and in French.
Cameroonians of English-speaking origin, they want to hear their president speak in English. What are you talking about?
Now, you are going to...
They want to hear their president
You are going to
speak
talk about the
value.
The value, that's the question. You only diverted to talk about this in terms of value of language.
No, when it comes to the value, I will take us back a little. If you see the various policy, the various decisions taken at policy level, you will see that it gives some that they attach a lot of interest to both languages. For example, if they insist that all official communication should be systematic in both languages, it means that they are considering the 2. But now, the issue is at implementation level, because the constitutional stipulation commits the state to certain obligations, and that is why you see those policies coming up. The circular letter of the Prime Minister, which I quoted here, is an implementation at that level. But now, all state officials, they are equally committed to certain obligations, and it is at this level that you don't see their equality. As we said, that every communication is supposed to be, especially when it comes to maybe regulatory, legislative instruments, they are supposed to be published simultaneously in both languages. The fact that one generally appears before the other comes up is already an issue. But it is at the level of implementation. So I would say, to answer your question, at policy level, yes. And that is why you have pilot linguistic centers that are created to teach Cameroonians to be bilingual. That is why you have these special bilingual programs. That is why it is insisted at all levels that the communication should be, that official communication should be in both languages. But at our level of implementation now, that's where we have a little problem.
Yes. Now I'll ask one question, and Mr. Tifu and Mr. Bonte will answer. Then I will come to Patrick.
I know you not come to me now.
No, I will always come to you, Patrick. If I don't come to you, you know the way you want to behave. So is bilingual is the lack of implementation, because that's what we're talking about, practice. Does it have anything to do with teaching? You are educationists. You are not only educationists, you are officials in the education sector.
Yeah. If you permit me, I would like to cue up from where he ended, and because I...
You mean he?
Yes, because I think that...
he, Patrick.
Yeah, because, you know, as we sit here, we are all part of this policy. The truth is that whether it is good or bad, we have a responsibility to shape the way things are supposed to be. And from the literary perspective, I'll create a metaphor. You see, no matter which party we belong to, unfortunately, I don't belong to any party, but the lenses that we wear, sometimes they determine the way we see things. You understand? And that's why the idea of short-sightedness can come in, or long-sightedness. The truth is that if we work from a particular premise, if we see things from a particular premise, we'll judge things from a particular perspective. Are we saying that if we go by his perspective, are we saying that the president of Cameroon, by obligation, is supposed to be bilingual? And if the president is not bilingual?
He is bilingual. I've cited instances where he has spoken in English.
Yes.
The question I ask you is this. Leave the president alone. Answer your question. The question I've asked you is, this lack of practice, does it have anything to do with training, that is in schools, because you are an educationist?
Okay, yes, I think so, because, you know, by implementing bilingual education, encouraging schools to pick up bilingual programs, developing curricula in English and French, we expect these programs to be implemented in schools. And if we have the problem of limited teachers, it can affect the way things are supposed to be done. So I think it's important.
The question was to you and Mr. Tifu.
Yes. So I think it's very important that we see into not only developing bilingual programs, but at the same time training the teachers that will be able to carry this program on.
I think what is very important here is the fact that children need to be told that English and French is a key. It is a mindset of the children that determines how much interest they are going to put into learning of French. For instance, if you have a child who is bright at English, bright at French, definitely that child will top the class. That one, nobody will disagree with me. So there is a spirit behind bilingualism in Cameroon. Some of our brothers, they look at English as if it's a language that is not very important. But let me just say this. You know, English is the most refined language on this planet Earth. English is a key to diplomacy, is a key to science. Once this is done, you are going to see that, because I want to say that the teachers are doing their job. And this the situation is only complicated by the fact that for some reason some people have refused to recruit teachers. Meanwhile, I still insist, Cameroon is one of the richest countries.
Okay, thank you. You said that before. Patrick, back to you. Many people say that what we understand by bilingualism is not that one person should speak both languages. That, well, in a public office, you, as someone said on this set, you come into an office, you speak the language you master. The person to whom you are addressing yourself could speak their own language, and that's the bilingualism. What do you say to people who have this type of listening?
No, just from the word "by" means being able to express oneself in two languages. It could be Swahili, it could be French, it could be English, it could be German, it could be whatever. In the context of Cameroon, we have 2 official languages. And saying that somebody is bilingual, and the argument is that the person can understand and, reply in his or her first language. Because though we're in a bilingual country, we all have what we call our first official language. That's those from the Northwest and the Southwest. They have English as their first official language. And those from the 8 other regions have French as their own first official language. So being bilingual is being able to express yourself in the second official language according to you, depending from which part of the country you're coming from. It cannot be about being able to express yourself in one language and maybe having an understanding of the other. That is not it. If you are seated in your house in Kobisong or wherever, Kilian, and you are not bilingual, it's none of my business. But if you are rendering public service, if you are in an environment that's open to the public, you ought to be bilingual.
We are going to follow.
That is to say, because you are discharging duties that, public service that will be needed by people from the 2 divides.
I'm going to take.
So, if it's none of my business, if you're in your small neighborhood,
yes,
and you are not renting any public service and you're not bilingual, fine.
Yes.
But we are saying that you say we should keep the head of state aside, but we will not keep him aside, because what I'm saying is that I don't expect the minister who is an appointee to make all the efforts to be bilingual when the person that appointed him isn't bilingual, or has at least not proven to be bilingual.
There is this thing that is key to what you were saying. We met someone from the English extraction of Cameroon, of Cameroon, who is based in Kribi, and this is the experience he has of bilingualism.
Return Church, Kribi. Last month, I took turns in visiting the civil administrators to present myself. At every point, every office I entered, because I made up my mind, I'm going to greet in English. For the first office, I got to the deal. I said, "Good morning, sir." And he said, "Good morning. Please, can you have a seat?" And so that is how we sat, and he continued to discuss. But at some point, imagine, I was shocked that since he couldn't press on, because he couldn't really communicate well, he pleaded with me if he could speak in French while I speak in English. I said, "Wow, why not, sir? You can move on." So as far as I understand you in French, and but I cannot communicate well as you do English, then we can flow. That's how we discussed, and all of that we ended very well. I continued like that, and I went to the first deputy mayor of Kribi. It was a lady. As I entered the office, I said, "Good morning, madam." She said, "Good morning, pastor. Please have a seat." I said, "Wow, this bilingualism issue is very much practicable here." It was so strange to me, and I felt at home that we discussed purely in English. At some point, she would struggle and say, "Okay, how do we call this one in English, like this word?" Then I would struggle and say, "Okay, it is called this." So at the end of the day, I felt at home, and the mayor was reading a book that was written in French. But because of the wonderful time we had together, I struggled to read French. Then I told her, "Please, can I borrow your book and go study?" She said, "Wow." So I got it. I've been struggling to go through that book to let her know that as she accepted, as she has made up her mind and she has embraced bilingualism, I myself, I have no choice but to embrace it. So I went to other offices, and it was the same. For those who could not really express themselves in English so well, they were very humble, and they could acknowledge to me that it was a little challenge, but they really desire to be bilingual. But again, on the other hand, we realize that the people, the man on the street, is still also finding it a little bit difficult to adapt. And I cannot blame them. Why? Because it is some sort of ignorance. And then we know the cure for ignorance is knowledge and sensitization. So we just need to keep sensitizing. But again, those on the street, I realize that most often when I am on a bike, I always greet the bike man. "Good morning, bro, can you take me to this place?" He said, "Good morning." I said, "Wow, mais tu ne connais pas parler anglais? Mais c'est non, mais anglais c'est bien, mais c'est bien. I said, wow, yeah, it's good. And so that side has been, it shows that even the bike riders, they are struggling, you know, to be bilingual. The market women are struggling to be bilingual.
Well, yes, that's his opinion, his take on what it takes to be bilingual, different from what Patrick was talking about. But many people think like him. Many people also think like you.
What mean different thing to different people?
Yes, exactly. And now this is the question that we answer before we come to Keke Bonte, who has written a book on Voices of Dual Tongues, an epic of bilingual Cameroon. But before we get there, Keke Bonte, this is the question we want to ask. In a country like ours, where we have this official policy of bilingualism, and it's not working the way we want it to work. It's not well implemented, as you have all said. So what should be done? What are the incentives? What are the encouragements? What are the sanctions that should be meted out on those who, to encourage those who are bilingual or who make an effort, or to sanction those who don't respect the text? I'm going to start with... you want to start?
Okay, no problem. Yeah, thank you very much. I think the way I look at it, maybe I'll draw from his experience. He got angry during an event in school and said, the MC must speak in English and French.
Okay.
At the youth village.
Yes, at the youth village. I want to say that we may not approach this issue with a lot of emotion. We need to encourage people to be bilingual. Because if you have an MC that can speak only in English but can understand French, then it's important that you can look for two MCs to manage the occasion, rather than insisting that the MC must speak in both English and French. The occasion will run.
Oh, it was an official ceremony, sir. So, be careful.
So, yeah, that's my own take, and I'm still coming back to the lens I'm wearing.
Okay, now, on that question too, what will you do? What sanctions will you propose to those who do not want to implement good text? And what are the incentives or the encouragements you will give to those who have made an effort and are actually bilingual?
Yes, thank you, Kilian. I would like to take us a little bit back, because there was a point at which I wanted to come in, and you never gave me the microphone.
But you understand we have only 8 minutes to go to the end of this program. Yes,
I wanted to say,
1 minute.
Yes,
go back.
I want to say bilingualism, our bilingualism, is an official constitutional provision. And from that point, it commits people and it bestows some rights to certain citizens. For example, if you are a public servant, you need to be bilingual. How do you need to be bilingual? You need to be bilingual. That's one point. That's the commitment. And then the right, as an ordinary citizen, you have the right and the privilege to be served in the language you understand best. And then if you are the server, you must be able to serve in both languages. If you are the served, you need to be served in a language you understand better. So a public servant, somebody working in a public office, who cannot attend to a user in the language the user understands better, does not deserve that position in that office. But now, this is where we are coming in. Can we just start now? We know the truth that many who are there are not bilingual. The only thing we should be doing, because I will not choose the stick method for now, I will choose the carrot method. I will start by encouraging those who are bilingual by lifting them up to prominent positions, and even with an explanation of their upliftment, bilingualism being a key point. So that he said something that the children to whom this bilingualism is encouraged, what interest do they have in, from the time a child sees that my uncle has risen up or this citizen has risen up because they are bilingual, I think I have to do everything possible to master the two languages so that when I get to some point, I will be lifted up like he has been lifted up.
Thank you so much. That has been so kind and diplomatic. But I'm going to ask the same question to you, Mr. Tifu. If he avoids the stick to use the carrot, and the people on whom we had to use the stick are so powerful, so influential, so adamant, so stubborn, will you continue to use the carrot on people who will continue to occupy the office, or you will use the stick?
I think we'll use the stick. For instance, we can now say that for you to be a member of parliament, you have to show proof of some level of language proficiency.
That's the carrot.
If we do that, people they will naturally queue up. Another thing you can do is that, like in Senegal, CESAC, 50% of the courses in English, 50% of the courses in French. Once you do that, you're going to have graduates who are bilingual. Another example, if you go to Burkina Faso, if you're doing an engineering degree, you have English language course to validate. If you fail it, you come and repeat.
Okay.
And once these things are done, and pay special attention to the children. And that's where, if you want to ensure continuity, you must start at that level. You must provide the teachers. Don't say that there is no budget.
Now, Patrick, if this one is a question you should answer like a common user of public service, we have a commission charged with the promotion of bilingualism and multiculturalism, and we know how dear this is to this country now. If you went to an office and somebody shabbily received you, what we've been talking about because of language, what will you do?
Well, I want to say that the creation of the Bilingualism Commission in 2018.
In 2017, the implementation text
Yes.
in 2019.
Okay. Yes, the text came in 2019, and I think that the commission was created to reinforce the practice of bilingualism in Cameroon. It was not created as a foundation on which bilingualism was built in this country, because it has been a constitutional provision from time immemorial, from 1960. And I think that the commission wasn't empowered to really enforce the use of the two official languages or ensure that they are given equal value and status in this country. It was created more as a consultative body, an advisory body, that's to say, all what they get as worries from public users, from the man on the street. They only have to channel it back to the head of state, who actually, a while ago you said we should not mention the head of state, so I'm very conscious now on how I mention, because it will appear as...
You're talking about the National Commission?
Yeah, I'm talking about the National Commission. It's a consultative body, and the consultative body is attached to the presidency.
Yes, continue to talk about the National Commission.
Okay. I will not mention the head of state again anyway. So that said, the commission has not been given the policing power. That's to say, it is still left to the people who manage these offices to decide whether or not to use the two official languages in their official outings, because at the end of the day, there will be no sealing of for example, the door of a public office, because those who are in charge are not implementing it. It's true that the commission has been doing a lot, like I told you off camera yesterday, that have been doing a lot when it comes to reporting the activities of the commission. Yes, they have been moving around, in public and private structures, trying to ensure that bilingualism becomes a reality that's practiced. But to me, that is not enough, because at the end of the day, once they don't have the policing power, we're working in an environment they don't have.
They should have. I agree with you.
Yes,
they should have that.
But the law setting up the commission doesn't empower them to do that.
They should have that.
And I'm sure that the office of the commission is flooded on a daily basis with complaints from public users, but nothing has been done because they don't have the power. They can only tell the big man, let me not use it or stay again, the big man to see into these worries and see how he handles
I go there, they actually do something on those complaints. probably there are some complaints they cannot handle. You are very correct.
Of course,
they are doing
which is
so
beyond,
much.
yeah.
Now, Keke Bonte, I promise that you will have 1 minute to talk about Voices of Dual Tongues, an epic of bilingual Cameroon. What have you said in this book that can promote bilingualism in Cameroon?
Yes, thank you very much, Mr. Ndakilian. Voices of Dual Tongues, which is subtitled An Epic of Bilingual Cameroon, is a historical document that I've carried out on research to find out, one, how did we come about speaking 2 languages in Cameroon? So in part 1 of the book, we have the birth of dual tongues, the coming of the colonial masters, the French and the English, and how they introduced these 2 languages in Cameroon. And then in part 2 of the book, we talk about the divide, the fact that these 2 languages came, and to a certain level, they seem to have created a linguistic divide between the Anglophones and the Francophones. And the part 3 is a tapestry of many tongues. Even though we have accepted these 2 foreign languages.
Don't go ahead. Our time is up.
Yes, we have more than 250 indigenous languages existing side by side. In fact, yesterday we had a report that there are about 283 indigenous languages now in Cameroon. Then there is the interesting fact that these 2 languages seem to have created a conflict, and presently we have the Anglophone crisis, which is as a result of the conflict between the Anglophone and the Francophone.
Thank
the
you.
question I'm asking is, should we say that 2 languages or more is a liability or an asset? And
Thank you so much. That's why we are asking the question we try to answer on Press Hour today is how far or how near is the practice of bilingualism in Cameroon to its policy. And we had Kofon Kilian Bonte, Keke Bonte, who's a Central Regional Pedagogic Inspector for Teaching and Promotion of Bilingualism, Minister of Secondary Education. We had Cho Kenneth, who is a translator, and he is a cultural diversity specialist. We had Mr. Tifu Philip, an educationist, civil society actor.
Thank you for having me.
Yes, and Moa Patrick was a desk editor, the Guardian Post newspaper. Thank you so much, gentlemen, for coming. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for your time.